Welcome to the All Booked podcast, where librarians Ashley, Justin, Brittin, and Rosa talk about what they're reading and adding to each other's TBR list.
Ready to kick off? In 3, 2, 1. Welcome back, everybody. All Book Club. We are your Ridgewood Public Library librarians here for another edition of our chat, set to go off on May 1st, Season 4, Episode 8. And Brittin is going to kick us off.
Excellent. Okay, so I have notes because this book, of all books I've read recently, really needs me to do it justice and to try and hit all the points. Luckily, Justin's also read it, so you can fill in where I forget.
You got it.
It's Ariel Crashes a Train by Olivia Cole. Mm-hmm. Definitely currently my front runner for Prince. I know we're only 4 months into the year, but it's got a lot of really good, strong points
She's
to
doing a
recommend
lot. She's doing a lot.
It's a novel in verse. It is not an easy read. I started it and had to actually put it down for a little while and do some of my normal light and fluffy stuff and come back. It's very, very powerful and very emotionally charged. Mm-hmm. Ariel is a high school junior who has a crocodile that is in her brain. So we eventually realized, based on some of the rituals she uses to control the crocodile and keep it at bay, that she has OCD. But she's not aware of that. And so she's living with these very violent, intrusive thoughts that are quite regular, right? I mean, she sits down to have hot chocolate with her friend and is just envisioning throwing scalding hot chocolate on her friend instead of listening to what her friend's saying. So that's what I mean when I say it's really kind of a tough book. This past year has been particularly difficult because her sister, Mandy, is a very supportive sister, but she's gone to college. Her parents are neglectful at best. I mean, they ignore
That's a good
her.
word. That's putting it very mildly.
Right, yeah.
They're terrible parents.
Yeah. So it's almost better when they ignore her because her mom's ideal woman is dainty, feminine, perfect. She doesn't like, I think it's Serena Williams at one point. She's like, she shouldn't even be allowed to play with the women. Meanwhile, Ariel, I forgot to tell you this even with my notes, Ariel's 5'11".
Yep.
She's very masculine. The one thing that she's found that she really felt a good connection with in terms of her time was weightlifting.
Yep.
But her mom and also her grandmother are, girls don't need muscles, what are you doing sort of a thing. Her father is very religious, and we talked about this a bit. Mm-hmm. He's very religious, but they don't go to church anymore. And he's opening dojos all around, like a whole chain of them. Mm-hmm. And to him, the dojos kind of replace church. But
it's his religion.
It's his religion, yeah. But he still is like, prayer will help you. Mm-hmm. Whenever there's any problem, prayer is the answer. Right. Certainly not supporting your child, certainly not, offering an ear to listen or anything like that. Yeah. It's, have you prayed? Right. Sort of a thing. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're going through this rough year. Summer's come. She's really looking forward to her job with her best friend Leah at Wildwood. They've done this at least a couple years running now. She's really looking forward to it. Leah announces she's going to a summer program and won't be there. So this is the beginning of Ariel's summer. Yeah. She lives in constant fear that she's going to hurt someone. She's positive that she's a monster because of these things, but she's doing everything she can to not give into it. So she keeps the crocodile at bay by walking in a circle, but you have to walk 64 circles. Yeah. And if you stumble, you have to start again. Yeah. So, she doesn't sleep. She's just constantly such a powerful book, I think. I really did not know about intrusive thoughts being a big part of OCD. I felt completely immersed in her brain. Mm-hmm. So we also talked a little bit about it being in verse and how you might want some more explanation. but it really does lend itself to being in Ariel's brain because her brain is very disjointed, and so your verse both gives you those powerful, punchy words, but also I'm saying verse. Do I mean verse? I don't mean verse.
Verse is written in verse.
It's written.
That's
it's
right.
in verse.
That's in verse.
It's poetry.
It's
Okay.
poetry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Right.
No.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just answered your question with the same answer. Like, well, is it written in verse? Obviously.
No, but
So-
I get what you're saying. She's doing a lot. Olivia Cole did so
There's
much
a
with
lot.
so little.
Right.
I mean, again, it's poetry in verse, but it's so well done, and you feel for her. You feel for
You
Ariel.
feel like her.
Oh my
in a lot. I
gosh,
really did
yeah.
feel very emotionally invested.
very charged.
Yeah.
I love. It was for me. It was the friends that she made.
Right.
During her summer working at Wildwood, there was. There's no support system at home. So she found her family in her job. And even like the grown-ups that were there,
Absolutely.
she kind of felt like she could trust them a little
Yes.
bit more. And there were just so many moments where she's just so naive and innocent. Like you're like, oh my God, your parents failed you, my
Absolutely.
friend. Like, and it's so beautifully done. Like your heart hurts. There are just some parts where you're just like, oh, you poor thing.
Right.
Like,
Well, and
Yeah.
I feel badly for her sister too, because her
Right.
sister has taken on a parental role.
Absolutely,
And Ariel feels really guilty, and it's like your sister just wants to get away from you. Leave her, let her, don't answer her calls. And her
Right.
sister's panicking because why is Ariel not answering my calls, sort of a thing.
But I love the dynamic between her and her sister, but also the fact that like when she left for college, Ariel was like relieved because like there was a really big part of her that wanted to like, I hate to say it, like KILL her sis.
Right.
Like,
Right.
So
Yeah, I mean, at least
that's
she's
how-
safe.
right.
And that's one of her coping mechanisms, too, is isolation.
right. Right.
So, which is basically just shutting yourself away with the crocodile. And I love the image of the crocodile.
Yeah, no, it's so like it's so dark. It's so well done. Like when that voice comes in, you're like it's the crocodile.
Right.
It's
Right.
so well done.
Well, it's
Just pick it
interesting
up.
too because it makes me think of a spirit bares its teeth because she had the rabbit,
Right.
and
oh,
it's
that's right.
it's
I started that
interesting.
book.
Yeah, and
got
abandoned it
freaked-
real quick.
Then I got freaked out.
But it was the same kind of thing. It's like this internal voice. Now, obviously, there's a difference between a rabbit and a crocodile, and
right.
it sounds like there was an obvious difference in
Right.
it.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the rabbit is just very high strung and very,
Right.
you
You could
Whereas
tell
the crocodile,
the author definitely made like really good choices.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very good
And
choices.
it covers a ton. I wrote
Definitely
this
pick
down.
it up. Definitely
so
pick it up.
It's about friendships and support networks, gender, race, religion, mental health, agency, and self-acceptance. All of these things are in there.
Right.
And really well done. And I was texting Justin in particular nonstop saying, she's going to crash the train. She's going to crash the train, right?
We both were like, when is it going to happen? Oh my gosh, it's going to happen. Spoilers.
Yeah.
We're okay though.
Yeah.
We're
So
okay.
definitely recommend this one. It's not an easy read, but it is so worth it. And I do feel like, I mean, not to give away too much, but I feel like I can hand this to someone that I'm not handing them, the most negative downer of the
No,
book,
no.
despite its heaviness.
Right. There are some moments where it's very uplifting and very, like, whew, like you
Right.
take a
Those
breath and you're
friends, yeah.
exactly. You take a breath and you realize, like, okay, there is some brightness in her
Yes.
dismal world.
Yes.
But yeah, no, I definitely agree. It's excellent. It's an excellent book. I wanted to do it, but you took it. That's fine with me.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry, not
because-
sorry.
That's okay, because if you're done,
I'm done.
I will
Take it away,
bring
Buffy.
My Buffy girl. Okay, so I got this book on Friday. Got super excited. So for those of you who are just joining us for the first time in our All Book podcast, yes, I am a Buffy the Vampire Slayer fanatic, and I mean that fanatic. And Kendare Blake is a goddess in this world because she has brought to life my Scoobies, my gang, my people who are absolutely obsessed with the Buffy universe. she's revived it for me. So let me backtrack. This is the final book in the Every Generation series by Kendare Blake. The last book is called Against the Darkness. And for those of you who don't know, in every generation, there is a chosen one. She alone stands against the vampires, the demons, and the forces of darkness. She is the slayer.
Can we get some background music? Somebody?
Some dark, eerie music.
My word.
So it picks up from the second book where we find all of our friends, all of their Scoobies are all spread apart. Willow is still kind of trying to contact Buffy in the other dimensions where she's hidden away with the other Slayers. And we have Frankie, Frankie is Willow's daughter, who is our main character. She is now the chosen one, but she is also a witch. So she's trying to kind of find the middle ground, be able to use her Slayer powers as well as her witch powers to kind of battle these, the darkness. And no spoilers, you will find out who the darkness is and what they're up to. But pretty much her and her friends are at it. They're trying to kind of infiltrate the darkness. They have Haley, who kind of is doing a secret op kind of thing where she's playing both sides and she's trying to give intel and all of this fun stuff. And then we have Jake, who is trying to hone in his werewolf side. So there's so much going on.
Werewolves too.
It's everything. It's
got
everything.
it all. Witches, werewolves, and vampires.
When I say I devoured this in almost one night, It was so good. Definitely a much needed reprieve from my chaotic world. I stayed up way too late reading it, but I definitely recommend this series. I haven't finished it, but I'm sure it's going to be amazing. So definitely pick it up if you are a Buffy the Vampire fan. And that's really all I have to say about this.
Do you have to be a fan to enjoy this?
No, you do not have to be a fan to enjoy it. You do have to read the entire trilogy to enjoy it.
All right.
But if you are a big Buffy fan, there are so many Easter eggs, so many funny little quirks in between that you're just like, this girl knows it. Kendare Blake, you are a queen. She was able to that was so great about this series is she was able to give us a new generation of these characters, but woven into the universe that was so well done, in my opinion. It was one of the best written shows at the time. I know you're rolling your eyes at me.
I've never watched it.
I'm telling you right now, it probably didn't age well. There's probably some really horrible episodes, but the writing was so solid. Like I felt like the acting was so good too. Like Sarah Michelle Gellar, like
that was
somebody
Pete's,
give her another role because she was just amazing
Yeah.
as Buffy. Nobody can ever compare. So I'm gonna finish talking about it because I can ramble on and on about Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So definitely pick it up, folks. Ashley.
All right. So I'm going to talk about a book that is technically, we have it cataloged in adult, but there's wide YA appeal, I think.
Okay.
It's R.F. Kuang's Yellowface. There's something like 200 copies in the system, and every single one is checked out. So it's very popular.
It.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's very good.
If you are interested in reading it, it's available, and you don't have to wait for it on Hoopla. Just
Sweet.
throwing that out there. So,
Did we get paid sponsorship? Yeah.
I feel like
We
it
did
should. But I really love this book. It was very gripping from beginning to end. And I do love a book where I hate the characters. And that's what this book is. Every single person who is in it is awful. You genuinely dislike them.
Yeah.
All right, so how do we begin with talking about this book? So we meet two characters in Yale graduates. They are in the publishing world trying to get published. That's where we are. One is Athena Liu, who is perfect in every sense of the word. She's perfect. She is beautiful. She offers something to the diverse community. She's Chinese, I believe. A phenomenal writer. She's like shrouded in mystery. Like everybody just fawns all over her. And then you have Juniper, who is living in her shadow, basically. She's not. So they are Juniper is Hayward, I believe is her last name. She writes under the name Juniper Song, which I will get into that in a minute. But Juniper is just your average 20-something white girl who's trying to get into the publishing game. That's it. And she is best friends, quote unquote, with Athena.
Frenemies.
They're frenemies. So
I love the Greek and Roman names.
Oh yeah. So Juniper is she's your narrator. So she's the one who's talking to you, and she talks about how they are friends, but not really, and how she doesn't think she knows Athena all that well, but she's going to spend her time with her, whatever. So one night, they end up at Athena's apartment, and things get out of hand. They drink a little bit too much, and they order food. They're eating it, and Athena chokes. Juniper freezes.
Oh my gosh.
Watches as she chokes, and dies.
Oh my gosh.
So this is not a spoiler. This is like within the first 20 pages of the book, not a spoiler. So Athena dies, and Juniper is just absolutely shocked. Doesn't know what to do, who to call, if she should try to help. She eventually does call an ambulance, but not before she decides to steal her manuscript.
Oh my God.
So Juniper sees that Athena has all of her work out. So
And it's all written. She
all
doesn't
written.
have, yeah.
So Juniper decides to take it so she didn't know what to do when she choked, but she did know to take this.
Time out.
Right.
Oh my
So
God.
then she's going, the book moves very quickly. So the funeral's over, all this stuff, and she looks at the manuscript. It's about the Chinese labor forces in World War I.
Okay.
So Athena had done all of the research for this story, and she had all just jibber jabber notes on her papers, but it was all outlined. It was ready to go.
I see.
So Juniper swoops in, and she's going to finish the story, but it's hers because she wrote it. It was all Athena's work, but it's her voice. Or at least that's what she's trying to convince herself and the reader.
Gosh.
Time and time again, it's my work. My blood, sweat, and tears went into that.
It
It's like,
builds
no, it didn't.
too. Like in the beginning, she felt like this was going to be an ode to
Athena. This is for Athena.
Let me finish Athena's work, and we'll be co-authors.
Oh my
but
Right, but then somehow
Yeah, all
Athena's
of a
name is
sudden,
just not there. So she is definitely trying to convince herself that what she did is okay. So
man.
as she predicted, she gets super famous super quick. People are all, oh my God, this is an amazing book. Like what a contribution to the literary world and all this stuff. Like she just skyrockets to fame. And then
as Juniper Song.
So she's not even writing
in a
under
very
her.
you can't see her face.
Can't see
really.
her face.
Yeah.
So Song is her middle name because her mom was in like a weird hippie stage when she named her and her sister. So Juniper Hayward is actually her name, but Juniper Song is what this Chinese novel is published as.
And that was a definite package move.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So of course, that where the title of the book comes in is like you have this white woman talking about Chinese history.
Yeah.
And there's also like this weird murder scandal that happened that she happened to be the only person around to have witnessed. So she gets a lot of people coming in being like, whoa, wait a second. Does she deserve the fame right now? Yeah. Like, is this her work or is it Athena's work? Athena has no family. She just has her mother. Her mother is too heartbroken to look at her notebooks. So she gives them to Juniper.
Oh my gosh.
So
It just doesn't stop.
No.
It gets worse.
So as we're going through this, Juniper somehow finds a way to convince people that no, that you I'm the victim here. Everybody here is attacking me and bringing me down, and this is what's wrong with the publishing industry. And then she starts to see Athena. Her mind is playing tricks on her, where she sees her at book signing. She sees her walking down the street. So she starts to see her. She's getting haunted by her to the point that she's like, wait, did she really die or no? And as the reader, I was like, she had to have died, right? Like, right? So and then we have visits from like Athena's ex-boyfriend who is trolling her online and stuff like that, like trying to play head games with her. Everybody's looking to get some kind of money out of this.
Right.
Like, I'm going to blackmail you so that I can get money from this. Like, I know your royalties are super high with this thing, so like, how can I get in on it?
Wow.
So it is. I think it's sad. It's actually a very tragic story because it is. I think it goes into loneliness and that feeling of failure and living in others' shadows. And even you look at Athena like she's truly the victim, and then you find out that she's not all that great because she also did a lot of like horrible things to get ahead in the industry. You know, like stole personal stories that were given to her and then just rewrote them as a story.
Yikes.
You know, so there's a lot to this thing. It's really well done, very fast paced. I really enjoyed it. I would definitely recommend it.
I really enjoyed it as well, although I didn't like any characters.
No, they're all every single
You're
one.
not supposed to.
No.
I haven't seen. Is it called American Fiction? The movie. Have any of you seen that?
No.
There's some similarities to, if I'm remembering right, and I haven't seen the movie, but a black man is writing and not writing successfully, and he's finding a lot of frustration with them saying, well, your voice is not authentic. So he like goes into eubonics and writes this and becomes a smash success.
Yeah.
And, you know, so.
Well, it's interesting too because it definitely gives a background look into the world of publishing that I didn't know about, like just how obviously how competitive it is, but also like how long it takes to get through all of the processes. But she gets to a point where she's like, well, as a white woman, why can I not write about this? Like, I did the research, she did not. I did the research, I did this, why can't I write about it? And then much later in the book, you hear about how Athena had the exact same thing, but she couldn't write about anything else. Other than Chinese history.
Yeah.
So, like, she was
A
pigeonholed.
double-edged sword.
Right. So no matter how she turns, it's like, it's such a difficult position to be in, and your background absolutely plays into how you are going to survive in that industry.
Yeah.
So
Typecasting in the
Yeah,
publishing industry.
absolutely.
It's a real thing.
it was great. I really enjoyed it.
I'm definitely
Yeah.
downloading this one.
It's
Walking into
like,
hoopla.
It's really fast.
It's very, very,
pretty
very
fast.
All right. I'm intrigued.
All right, so I'm gonna go into Kindling, which just came out, I think, last month.
That's on my TBR list. That's literally sitting on my shelf waiting to be opened.
Okay, so not much spoilers, but this one is a sort of reimagining. I don't want to say a retelling, but a reimagining of Seven Samurai and the Magnificent Seven.
So good.
But with child soldiers. Ooh. And it's pretty intense. So you have basically 7 points of view from like the different.
Wow.
And it's actually wild how like easy it is for, even though it's in second person POV, which also like kind of messed with me at first. It's really like each POV is so distinct that you know exactly who's like narrating as soon as like you jump into the next like segment. So basically we have the 7 main characters, and we start off with Liam, who is this really grumpy, traumatized, like former child soldier who was in the Royal Army because she had powers. She has powers, and they are taken from like at the age of 5 once they start showing powers, and then trained on, and then sent out after a couple of years onto the battlefield. And there, they basically use their powers to decimate like their enemies, but it comes at a price because they lose years of their life as they use their power. The more they use their powers, until at around age 19, 20, they burn up, like literally just spontaneously
Kindling.
combust. Yeah. And, yeah, they die. And
Traci Chee.
she does not hold back because you have like, I don't know how real this is. I'm not a child soldier, but the way
Just so we're all aware.
yeah. But yeah, there's definitely huge exploration of trauma, PTSD, alcoholism and addiction, all the different like ways that trauma like manifests in your internal like mindscape, or the way you treat other people, and the way you see the world. So Liam is angry. That's kind of her response to her experiences. And she's going through this journey wherein she's trying to leave her homeland behind because it has too many painful memories. She's trying to get over the mountains to a new land. So on the way there, she stops by a village where she tries to sell her old armor. And while she's there, she finds that some village girl is getting beat up by some boys. So she goes, takes her sword, and like
Takes care of business.
and then she almost loses.
Oh.
So in swoops in a mysterious figure who just basically like scares off the boys. And then she finds out that this mysterious figure is an older former child soldier who was probably the most famous soldier in the army, the Death Reaper of the Valley.
Wow.
She's
The
Good
name like
title.
that?
Whoa.
Wow.
That's a good title.
That is going to strike fear in everyone's heart.
I mean, is there a Death Reaper of the mountains, though?
So she's this person who's kind of been living below under the radar for like a couple months now. And the girl who was getting beat up was in the village because she's trying to ask for help. Because she's trying to look for somebody who will help her village stand up to some people. It's some people who are this army led by another former
Oh my gosh.
who is terrorizing them, stealing their crops, stealing their money. And
Wow.
every couple months until like at this point they're depleted, they have nothing else to like survive on, and her brother gets killed.
Oh my gosh.
During the last raid. So the Death Reaper, Amity, for some reason that we will only find out later, decides to take up the job and say, yeah, okay, I will help you with driving away the raiders, but I will need 7 kindlings overall to get this done. So this is when they start recruiting, and then they start finding all these different like kindlings. And then so we have Liam, Amity, and then they meet this girl named I forgot her name.
That's okay.
There's 7 points of view, and
Yeah,
you can't
you're
remember.
fine. Oh, good.
Ket.
Okay.
Ket is sort of like the playgirl
Okay.
of the group.
Okay.
She's basically just sort of swooping into one place, leaving the next, blazing trail, breaking hearts everywhere. But
As playgirls do.
but she can't stay still. She has to keep going because that's how the war has affected her. And then you have this another one who is basically a traveling performer whose show is about throwing knives. She throws knives like with the most accurate precision. And I believe her name is... I forgot her name.
It's all good.
There's so many.
There's so many characters,
I was
Rosa.
gonna say.
It's all good. Ben.
Yeah, so Ben basically is like the perfectionist of the group. She looked up to Amity throughout her whole career as a soldier, but the war ended before she could make a name for herself. So she basically just perfected her craft and then went on to perform around the country, and she can't bring herself to kill anybody.
Oh, man.
And then
Maybe she shouldn't be part of the group.
yeah, but like she is like scary good.
Okay.
Like, she could like
They need her.
throw like a blade and slice off like the wings off a fly. She's
Wow.
that good.
So you got to get her.
Yeah,
This
for
book is
sure.
moving up on my list now.
Yeah, and the last one is no, not the last one. One of the last ones is Imara. She was actually a former child soldier from the enemy army. So,
Okay.
So, but she's
Turncoat.
like the nicest one out of all of them. She's like the sunshine of the group. She's very like
Definitely dark.
big-hearted,
Oh, no, sorry.
very sweet, very fun, loves to party. even though Liam kind of hates her because
okay.
she's the
Too joyful.
enemy.
Yeah.
Too
No fun.
Yeah, part of that too. And the last one is City. She is 14 years old, never has gone to war, but she was trained, and before she could like finish her training, the war ended. So she's really eager to prove herself, but she also doesn't know what it means to be a Kindling, a soldier. So thus begins their mission to teach the villagers, well, first convince the villagers they need their help, and then train the villagers and build fortifications around the village, and basically prepare for the next attack and drive them away. And this is where their friendships like blossom, and then all the conflicts kind of come to a head. All these like secrets just start like popping out. And this one is actually really, really dark for a YA. I'm actually surprised.
Okay.
Because it does not hold back. It gets a little gory at times, not like gratuitously, but it's still like quote unquote realistic. And people die.
I mean, they're samurais, right?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
So that.
I mean, if you've ever seen the movies you referred to at the beginning, I mean, it does not end well for them.
Because like, I thought it was gonna be A Bug's Life, but it's Seven Samurai.
Yeah. Oh no.
It's really, that's a rough, when you go into it thinking you're going to have a glass of milk and it turns out to be lemonade.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I thought it was gonna be a fun sort of like, we're just gonna
not
fight
pretty.
off the.
That's funny because her writing, she usually it's pretty like clean. Like okay, she took a turn. All right.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
interesting.
it's getting tons of great reviews, right?
Yeah. I'm definitely.
I mean, balancing 7 points of view and doing it as skillfully as you're saying,
Yeah.
that's got to get some
Well,
notice.
after Buffy, I'm definitely picking that up because she kind of went underneath that.
Yeah.
All right, so we are going to wrap up our conversation with some topics here, and interesting enough, Brittin and I discussed this because we read Ariel Crashes a Train. So we are talking about the term unreliable narrators. And according to this Oxford Reference website, an American literary theorist, Wayne Booth's term for a narrator who cannot be relied on either to tell the truth or, in the case of self-reflexive narrators, to know the truth. So who wants to talk about?
In that description, they mentioned Lolita, which I think is very fair to talk about an unreliable narrator, because while you're reading it, you should not be agreeing with what this person is saying. You know that as the reader. But as you're going through it, you're almost listening to his justification for being the way he is.
Right.
And you're like, I shouldn't even give you this time.
Right.
But you feel you have to. And I feel like that's what an unreliable narrator does so well, is like, they're wrong. They're a terrible person, but you also are like, but I feel like I want to hear your reasoning. Like, tell me more, you know? Right. And I was thinking about this, and I think there's a big difference between an unlikable narrator and an unreliable narrator.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
So unreliable would more so mean that you don't necessarily trust what they're saying, or that you feel like they did really well with the persuasive essay in high school, like
But
that they're
also
persuading you.
Yeah, sorry to
go ahead.
interrupt. There's also the ones where you totally believe everything they're saying. And then you find out when you hit the twist that, whoa, I shouldn't have believed it. And that's what we were talking about, the, first rule of Fight Club. I was saying, I could talk about some of my favorite unreliable narrators, but if I tell you now that they're an unreliable narrator, it's going to totally ruin the book for you.
Right.
There's a number of books out there where you know.
So I'm going to stick with some classics because, I feel like maybe a lot more.
And Ariel, we talked about this one.
Absolutely.
Right?
But she's unreliable because she herself cannot trust what she's remembering or what she's thinking because
And
she's because she's dealing with a bunch of mental issues as well.
Right.
So there's that type of unreliable narrator. There's also there are several types. And I wrote it down. There's the naive narrator. That's because they're unreliable for his or her lack of experience. There's the outsider, who is somebody who's new or don't know what's going on with the rest of the characters. I always think of Nick from The Great Gatsby as a good example of that. Picaro is a narrator who likes to embellish or exaggerate a story. Insane, a narrator who's lost touch with reality, and liar, who just intentionally deceives you. So, I mean, literally, I could name so many books. There's so many books of unreliable narrators, which makes good literature, in my opinion, because it really makes you think. Like, it makes you stop. I don't want to say like. I won't. But like, I guess my first experiences was Great Gatsby and also The Life of Pi. Like,
that's a great example.
I love that book. And then like once you realize what happened, and it was like a coping mechanism for him, it just blew me away. Like I was like, this is the best book.
You could even say with the naive narrator, Perks of Being a Wallflower.
Yeah,
you know,
y'all are giving away first Fight Club is.
I'm sorry, but you have to read it to know why.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't tell you why.
Right.
No, that's a really good. That's part of why I chose to talk about Yellowface is because she's definitely the liar type. And
she's convincing herself.
I was going to say,
trying to convince you.
It feels almost more like therapeutic for her to be like, this is my work. This is my. If you could count how many times she says, "This is my original work. This is my original." It's
you
repeated.
Almost believe it yourself.
Yeah, but it's over and over and over and over again until only a couple of times she's like, "So I stole it." You stole it, then But I think it helps. It gives more onus on the reader to dissect the book and dissect the characters. So I feel like it's a more involved reading rather than just seeing what's written on the page.
Right.
That's my feeling.
I mean, you definitely as a reader have a major role and have to put in the investment in an unreliable narrator of almost any of those.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Whether they're aware or not aware, whether they're doing it
it's just so interesting how many unreliable narrators there are in YA.
The one that came to mind, which I think falls under the crazy realm, this was years ago that I read this book, but to this day stands as one of my favorite books ever. I believe the author's name is C.J. Tudor. She's a British writer, and it's called The Chalk Man. Oh my God. Until the last page, you think something's happening, and then it changes. And I remember I took the book, I threw it. I was like, no way that's how that ends. And the most convincing narrator, I think, I've ever. And then literally the last line, I was like, what? Like M. Night Shyamalan levels of twist. I was like, wow. It was so well done. But I feel like Rosa has a page of notes.
First of all, Rosa blew us all away last conversation. So
she just sits there so innocently, lets us talk.
I know. All right, come on, Rosa, hit us.
I guess my first instinct was actually Gone Girl.
Oh yes,
that one is just like you know they're horrible to each other.
Oh yeah,
you don't trust them, but it's like. I'm so compelled to find out why you're doing this to each other. But I think the first like experience I remember with like an unreliable narrator that really hit me was actually when I read Atonement when I was in high school.
Oh my God,
it was right. Yeah, it was the summer of Atonement because I read it during the summer. The rest of the season, I do not remember anything but thinking about that.
Oh my God, I'm tearing up because I remember how I felt when I read this book. Yeah. Oh my God, it was rough. Yeah.
It was beautiful and it was brutal. And like you just find out in the ending and it's just why?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to spoil it, but like it's such a popular movie.
Good.
A lot, like
movie, book. Honestly, do the book. The movie is fantastic.
Yeah.
But oh my God, the book will just change your life.
Perspective. So I guess what I was thinking about as a whole is what is the unreliable narrator trying to tell us? What is it doing to us as a device? So basically I thought, so the unreliable narrator confirms and I guess explores that experience is relative and arbitrary. So the central question this device asks is, who has the most control over information? Because there is no narrative without information. So is it the narrator, the reader, or the events? So you have the narrator who experiences the events and can choose how to tell them, but can be condemned and dismissed. And then there's the reader, who is the only one who can judge whether the narrator and their version of the events are credible, but has limited access to the experience. They have to do it through the narrator. It's coming secondhand. And then the third one is the events. It's the quote-unquote impartial truth. It drives the narrative, but it's at the mercy of the narrator's perspective and how they choose to relay them.
Yeah.
So that's how I was thinking of, like, atonement. So you have Bryony, who is the narrator, and then you have the events.
Let's not talk about it, but let's talk about it.
And she is speaking directly to the reader. She's saying, so this happened, and then I apologized, and then happily ever after. Anyway, no.
This is actually did not happen at all the way I explained it.
Does Bryony have the most control over the information? Because if she does, then she's totally justified in telling a lie that, comforts the reader and herself. Or does she, or do the events have the most control over the information, because her justification won't matter if these things happen, because intention doesn't matter. It's arbitrary. So, or are we the one with the most control over the information? Are we the one who, are we as readers condemning Bryony? Are we the ones who are basically
Yes, she's the
dictating what happened? So we learn the truth, and we're allowed to discount her version of events, or we can take it into account. So, who has the most control over the information? And it's not always the same throughout the story. Sometimes it shifts, and sometimes it totally flips. Sometimes they all have the same amount of control. So that's just what Atonement basically
I forgot about Atonement. Yeah, such a good book.
I think that using the narrator, using an unreliable narrator is really challenging, I would imagine, because you do have to make assumptions about your reader and your audience. Yeah. And the same is true for film and stuff like that. If I'm thinking of Knives Out, which
Memento.
It's, Memento's fantastic. Don't trust her lies.
I know.
But that's making a big assumption that your audience is going to follow along and understand that okay, I can't trust anybody who I'm reading from right now.
Right.
And I just think that takes a different kind of talent.
I agree. I agree. And honestly, that's why I thought about it, because when I finished Ariel Crashes the Train, there were parts of it that I had to go back and reread, because I was like, wait a minute, I read this, she explained it to me, but what am I believing here? Did it really happen the way she doesn't? It?
She has times where she's asking her friends, what did I do
with my phone? Did I really do that? There were parts. Yeah. Which you're right. It really takes an incredible amount of skill to just do it. So,
and I also think back to Yellowface, where you get, I would say, 3/4 of the way through the book before you first find out about the time that Athena stole from Juniper, and you're like, well, wait a second, what are we talking about? Right. And then that little nugget is thrown into the mix, and then you start to almost sympathize with the narrator, and they're like, no, she's still garbage, but what Athena did is also kind of garbage, so it really you have to do almost like a character analysis of all these people who come into the mix,
right?
And really, and as a writer, I feel like that means that you have a very good understanding of the way the human brain works and the way people make their own judgments and, go through their own critical thinking process to have an analysis of a character or a book. So,
So when it comes down to it, folks who are still with us at the hour mark, read as many books as you can, just to kind of get a taste of like the different things out there. Honestly, we gave you a lot of books today, even books we didn't. Like I want to pick up the Chalk Man now because I'm intrigued. I really want to read it now. But anyways, thank you for listening, and thank you guys for giving your thoughts and your book selections. We will be back next month for our June. Oh my gosh, June reads. All right, stay tuned. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
The All Booked podcast is written, directed, and hosted by Justin, Rosa, Ashley, and Brittin, and produced and edited by Olivia Esteban. All Booked is produced by the Ridgewood Public Library. Please consider subscribing and sharing with friends, and follow us on Facebook. You can find links to the books we talked about today in the description. Thanks for listening, and keep reading.